What happens if anyone... I'm live. Sweet. That's kind of amazing. Um, yeah, that doesn't look too bad, actually. I'm pretty content with that. What happened to oh yeah, there's no lower third. That's right. There's no YouTube stuff. I wonder if I can find that. Oh, I do need to copy, yeah. Worth noting. OBS YouTube chat. Would that be OBS YouTube live chat? Let's try that. See if we can find that. And I also have to set up. I nearly forgot. Oops, that's the wrong thing. That's not very helpful. Okay, we're just not going to be able to do that. Fair enough. Hey, JJ. Animore is a lot of fun. It's grown into quite a con. The first year was Snowpocalypse, where there were maybe 30 people here because we got like 2 feet of snow that weekend. And so it was a very intimate convention and fun for that. You know, every panel had like the same 3 people in it, so we got to know each other pretty well. And so this is, I guess, the 3rd year or 4th year of Animore, and it's now a fairly sizable con. I mean, hundreds of people. You know, not massive, but I'd say there are a good, 200, 300 people here this weekend, which is pretty darn cool. This has started to really grow. So very happy to see that. Let me just pull up the news here before I forget. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was. I think I tried to share some stuff there. It was pretty nuts. But you know, it became an experience, right? Everyone remembers that that year if they were here. Oops. Let's try that again. Select all. There we go. Always fun to have something that's just unforgettable, right? Who's gonna forget that thing? Hey Jay, good to see you. Oh, one second. Let me get my the stand for the news thing. I think it's over here. Let's find out. It fell in here somewhere. There it is. Hopefully this will work as a little stand for the phone for the news. Once we get into that, how are you all doing? What's new in your worlds? Been watching some anime or reading manga or such? Imagine that. Us folks watching anime and reading manga, or reading anime and watching manga. It's hotel Wi-Fi, but it's like included. I guess I have enough points now that they include the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I hope they're not going to add a charge. But yeah, so yeah, like you said, the Wi-Fi is pretty good. Like this is certainly not what it is at home, but it's not the 2 frames per second one often got from Wi-Fi back in the day. Hey Becca, good to see you. Yeah, there's a lot happening at this con, actually. A lot of panels, 2 panel rooms, which for a small con like that is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm super excited about this new season too. I'm doing my seasonal anime watching party next weekend because I'm at this convention this weekend, so I got to wait for my party for next weekend. So I'm going to be kind of delayed this season, and I kind of don't want to get started before my friends show up. I don't want to say, oh yeah, here's the thing, I've already seen it. Oh yeah, I've already seen this one. So this season will be kind of late for me, but that's okay. Oh, nice, YK2K. You're starting to read the classic Star Wars novels. I have fond memories of reading Heir to the Empire back in the day. Those were fun explorations of Star Wars back when there was no one else doing that, right? When Star Wars was kind of over, and people were imagining what the future would be like. It felt like this breath of fresh air in this fandom that just felt moribund. This franchise that was just sitting there. Oh, interesting. Harkening back to latest short book on Girl, I think. That's pretty cool. Hidden Gem, nice, nice. I'm still 2 episodes from the end of Land of the Lustrous, Hoseki no Kuni, and looking forward to getting to the end of that. Kind of, I'm posted on the Discord. You ever have one of those anime where you're near the end and you kind of don't want to watch the ending because you're afraid of where it's going to go? You love it, like you're really enjoying it, but you just have that fear it's going to go completely off the rails, perhaps unfounded. That's where I am with Land of the Lustrous. I'm just a little concerned that it's going to go all pear shaped from my perspective. I know I think it's an ongoing manga still, so I'm curious to see where it ends. And I don't want to know before I actually watch it, but that weird sort of internal fear that the ending will be worse than your imagination, worse than you expect. Nice. Yeah, I think I missed the window of Weathering with You here in America. I think it's already come out in theaters, which is sad. I wanted to see that one in theaters, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to that. Runway, new interesting concept. Cool. Good to hear that. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is often I'm enjoying the show so much, I kind of don't want it to end. I want to have it sitting there, just hovering in that liminal space. But oh well, I'll finish it out sooner or later. I'm back to work this past week after the holiday break, and that was surprisingly kind of exhausting for me. Not a huge amount going on, just a lot of thinking, a lot of, okay, how are we going to reconfigure the class for the next group of students coming in? So a lot of kind of high level thinking that was surprisingly tiring. So I come home at night and just crash, frankly. And then, frankly, I wasn't sleeping very well this week. Not to turn this all about me, but one of those weeks where you're doing a lot of thinking at work, and then you come home and you're like, I can't really concentrate. But then you end up sort of late at night, unable to go to sleep because your mind's processing things. So I seem to be more recovered this weekend, although of course the con's tiring in its own way. 7 panels at Anamore this weekend, 2 more tomorrow. So a total of 7, 5 so far. Nice and spread out, no complaints, but yeah, it's a lot. Break was good. I spent a good amount of time just kind of recharging, getting up to speed on some things. So working on some of the Workshop Wednesday videos, for example, kind of prepping some of the tools I needed and resources I needed and such. So that was a good feeling to kind of lay some groundwork. I also hosted some weird people that came over to my house and had them here for a couple of days, and that was a lot of fun. Yep, if you have fun, that is all that counts. Yep, 7 panels in Anamore. Probably a similar count at Star City here coming up soon. In the next month or so at Star City. I know I submitted a similar number of panels, so we'll see. But yeah, did a history of anime panel, history of mecha panel, parents guide to anime panel, a D&D panel. So we played D&D for about 45 minutes. What else? There was one other. These anime changed my life. So I went through about 10 different anime that were really impactful on me as an otaku and as a person. And then tomorrow I'll be covering why you should be watching anime from the 1970s and a tour of world animation. So showing clips from various animated films made neither in America, made neither by Disney nor in Japan. So there's some non-Disney American films in there. So good spread. Yeah, gonna avoid Concrud. Yep, I DM'd the D&D panel. So basically, I did it was actually interesting. I started off by going through 3 or 4 things that we could do in the panel. Basically, I could do an overview of D&D for folks who weren't familiar with it. I could do a history of D&D for those who wanted kind of that backstory. And then I said we can do a short session of D&D. And most folks wanted to do the session, but there are a fair number of folks there who had no exposure to D&D. So I was like, all right, I'll do a brief 5-minute intro to D&D, and then we'll play a session. And what I ended up doing is I threw up 3 character sheets, and then I would just call out and say, okay, who wants this character? Who will tell me what this character is going to do next? And people would raise their hands. I'd point at them and say, okay, what does that character do? And they would tell me, and that would happen. And then I'd go to somebody else and say, okay, what does this character do? And so that allowed us to avoid character creation, and also avoided having just 3 people or 4 people actually on the panel playing, and everyone could be involved. So that was pretty cool. Worked quite well. They ended up attacking a witch's lair that was surrounded by scarecrows and killing off those scarecrows very effectively, and then freeing the barbarians' 32 cats that had been imprisoned by the witch. So, fun time was had by all, it seems. Have I watched the Netflix Saint Seiya? I have not. I have honestly no exposure to Saint Seiya. I have never watched a minute of Saint Seiya. I'm going to post those panels on the channel at some point. Unfortunately, none of them were recorded. Evan is not here, and I don't have anyone to record those. So, sad. And obviously, I could record them and do them, but we will see. I think Brief History of Mecha I have up on the YouTube channel at some point, and Brief History of Anime is definitely there in various pieces. So we'll see. I think once this con season goes through, I might take a bunch of my panels and record them and post them up, kind of like the Miyazaki's Mythical Animals panel. Actually, no. There's another one that I did recently where I sat down and just recorded it, sitting in my room at home. So I might do that at some point. Evening Game Escape, good to see you. I can see more analysis of the different decades and what they bring to anime. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. It's actually a question I get a fair amount now, is how anime has evolved. How was anime different back in the day? 80s versus 90s and so forth. And I think a lot of people have different perspectives on that. Some of them very reasonable. And so I think it's helpful to provide a different perspective on that and say, here's how I see how the 80s evolved. Here's what I see as the big influences on that decade. Because it's always hard to say, right? It's always hard to know all that. A full-on lane panel would absolutely be interesting. A friend of mine does do a lane panel at cons every so often when they let him, and he just goes into all the details of lane, and there's a lot. There's certainly plenty to talk about. So there's certainly material. That is the thing. Yeah, recordings of panels are tough without having Evan here, and he's busy doing other stuff. I need somebody else here with cameras to set up and do all that stuff. It's logistically, a lot of work. So hopefully at some point we can evolve that and make that work, but we'll see. And I have recorded some panels in which just the audio cut out, or the video, the camera didn't actually start recording until 10 minutes into the panel or whatever, and otherwise we had just some significant video or audio issues that made the panel just unwatchable, or the lighting was so bad that you couldn't see me or see the screen or whatever. So it's okay, this just is unplayable. So we did have a few of those. Yeah, that's a good point, Jay. And I think it's actually an advantage, is that I think people are familiar enough with anime and the fact that there was anime, and they don't mind knowing the different anime that came out and how things went. I mean, folks don't really know much about anime more than 5 years ago. But there's not that idea that, oh, my virgin ears, don't spoil the fact that this show came out in 1985. Most notable panels and/or stuff from Animorph so far. There's a YouTuber and his channel is called the Unagi Observer, and he's here and he's doing panels on Japanese history. So he did one on Tanegashima, I think it's called, which is this prefecture in Japan that imported guns, the first to import guns from the Portuguese, I think it was, Portuguese or the Dutch, and how that changed warfare in Japan, what was going on with the samurai, and how that changed the samurai. So that was really cool, because the rifles were definitely a big change. Actually, I guess they were technically like flintlocks, the precursor to the rifle. But that was a neat panel. What else? There was he did another panel on some aspect of Japanese history, which I'm forgetting now. I also participated in a panel. There was a Name That Anime panel where the host would read out descriptions of anime. We had to guess if they were true, they were real or fake. Does that anime actually exist? And I will admit, there were a total of 6 of us, all guessing, and I did happen to win that panel. Although it was close. It was like I had 19, and it was like 17 and 16 and 15 were the other people. So that was a lot of fun. It was a pretty close game. I mean, a lot of them were like, oh yeah, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one, and we all just kind of messed up on 2 or 3. But that was fun. I think Matchlock. Totally. The channel, that guy's channel is the Unagi Observer. Let me see if I can type that in. Ooh, this is gonna be interesting. Unagi Observer. There we go. So I'm doing this on my tablet, and I lost the main fold-out keyboard that I bring. It just disappeared. And so I'm using this now, which is this small portable keyboard. And so I have to kind of do this with it the entire time. Like, it's not really, I can't really type on it. So that's been kind of interesting. So typing is a bit of a deal on this one. Matt asks, is there a reason why Japanese actors always have exaggerated expressions? I do not have that experience. In my experience, Japanese actors actually have pretty restrained expressions. Unless you're talking about like kabuki and no theater and such. But most of the Japanese live action things I see, folks are pretty reserved. Could you give me an example of some exaggerated expressions in Japanese media? Thanks. Yeah, this is just thing I carry around with me in a lot of places. This touchpad is actually the touchpad, so it's technically a mouse, left and right buttons. This is up, down, left, right, and the various keys. Like $35 on Amazon. So, very useful. I actually have a little timer thing, a Raspberry Pi timer that I use at panels, which actually I can show you real quick. So this is something that actually was one of Evan's ideas. So this is a Raspberry Pi, and it is attached to a screen here. This is actually an older Pi. And so I can plug in a cable here and plug that into a battery. And then if I can get this working, USB, come on. What? It's definitely the, there we go. So I plug that in, and then this starts to power up. It takes a few moments to power up. And there's a little Raspberry Pi device. Oh, see a little flicker. There it goes. And so this is just a Raspberry Pi running off this battery. It could be plugged into the wall outlet, but this is a convenient thing I can just, stand on a table somewhere. And it boots up. It takes about a minute to boot up total. Boots up into a graphical user interface, which is standard on the Pi now. And once it does that, it then auto loads a timer application that I actually wrote, which starts a countdown immediately. And so whenever I do a panel, I plug this in when I first start, just set it on the table. And so now I know I have this 45-minute countdown. I can just watch this as I do my panel. And so the advantage is I now have this timer. If I have an hour-long panel, I try to, finish up when this gets down to 0. And once it gets past 0, it actually just flashes red and then counts up from there. So I know, okay, I'm 2 minutes over, 5 minutes over, whatever. So this is a very convenient little thing that I have for the panels. And then just unplug that, I'm good to go. And then I can plug this back in and recharge it, from whatever, which I will probably do tonight. So that is a very handy thing for my panels. And I also have a hour and a half version of that countdown timer. That was a cool thing. And then I have this keyboard I carry around with it just in case I need to change things. Yeah, exactly. The Pi is a little bit of a TARDIS. And the most recent Raspberry Pi, the Pi 4, has a 1.5 gigahertz processor and up to 4 gigs of RAM on it. I mean, it's practically a PC now. It's pretty nuts. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. And that screen you saw, it was kind of slow to refresh. That's an old screen. These days, they're very usable. And they're cheap, $20-$30, and you're good to go. So yeah, Matt, it depends on what you're watching. There's definitely, if you're watching a comedy, if you're watching like one of those evening shows, evening talk shows, they can be pretty over the top. But if you're looking at like a drama, like a serious drama, like a samurai story, they tend to be pretty reserved. Obviously, if somebody's charging at somebody in combat, they can go ah. But we have that in war movies and such too. So it depends a lot. Yeah. There's a full-fledged GUI on there, and a web browser, an email client. Minecraft is on there, of course. Full Office suite, LibreOffice running on that. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with Raspberry Pi. All right. Did y'all hear that? Actually, I do not have the news intro thing queued onto this laptop, so we can't do that. That is unfortunate. But let's go ahead and do the news. I've got to kind of set up here a little bit. This is going to be a little different than usual because I don't have all the normal things ready. But we're going to see how this goes. Going to be a little weird, but hopefully we can make the news work. Actually, let me grab some more water. Is that going to be enough? I think that's going to be enough. Okay. News time. Good evening, and welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending January 11th, 2020. And my news is over on the side, so I'll be looking at that a lot tonight. First up in this week's anime announcements, an exciting one for fans of the Higurashi series. 7th expansion and Kadokawa announced on Monday that the Higurashi When They Cry visual novel and anime are getting a new anime project. A new website and Twitter account have opened for the project because everything has to be on Twitter. And Kadokawa also began streaming a promotional video in case you need any more help getting hyped. Ryukishi 07 and 7th expansion are credited with the original work, which doesn't mean much. The series will be animated by Passion and produced by Infinite. 07th expansion launched the original visual novel software in 2002, and they were released in English by Manga Gamer in 2009. The original TV anime aired in 2006 and 2007. The game has also inspired a number of video anime projects, live-action films, and manga, and most recently even a stage play, which ran in July of last year. So yes, more Higurashi on the way. What could be better? The 14th compilation volume of Kumanano and 029's Kuma 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 Bear light novels announced that a TV anime adaptation is in the works for that series. The story is another cute take on being transported into a video game world. Main character Yuna is obsessed with a VR MMO and prefers playing it to anything else in the real world, don't we all? A strange game update gifts her an overly powerful but overly embarrassing bear costume, and she is torn on whether to wear it until she is suddenly transported into the game world and it becomes the best weapon she has. The story began publication on the Shosetsuka ni Naro website in 2014 and gained print publication in May of 2015. A manga adaptation has also been running since 2014. Looks cute. And yes, that is technically Bear is the name of that. Kodansha announced this week that Yoshitoki Oima's To Your Eternity manga is inspiring an anime adaptation which will air on the NHK Educational Network in October of this year. Described by Kodansha as an intimate, quote, intimate emotional drama and an epic story spanning time and space, end quote, the manga follows a boy wandering the Arctic regions of North America and a wolf he befriends as they depend on each other for survival in the harsh environment, at least in Volume 1. Oima launched the manga in 2016. It won Best Shonen Manga at last year's Kodansha Manga Awards and ranked on the American Young Adult Library Services Association's 2019 list of great graphic novels for teens. Oima's previous manga was, of course, the renowned A Silent Voice, in case you've heard of that. Crunchyroll publishes the manga digitally in English as a simultaneous publication with its Japanese release, so if you're interested in reading it before the anime airs, now is your chance. It is also available in print. Let's see here. Screenwriter Shozo Uehara sadly has passed away at age 82 due to liver cancer. Uehara wrote for many of Tsuburaya Productions' earliest works, including Ultra 7 and Kaita Kita Ultraman. He also wrote many entries in Toei's Super Sentai Tokusatsu series, the 1978 Spider-Man Tokusatsu series, and Kamen Rider Black. He also contributed scripts for many classic anime series, including Captain Harlock. Condolences to his family and loved ones, and to fans of his many works. Very prolific creator there. The exhibition of art posters celebrating the upcoming Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games opened its doors to the public this week. Renowned artists from across disciplines have created, quote, artworks based on the theme of the Olympic or Paralympic Games in order to foster momentum in the build-up to the Games, end quote. Among these artists are manga creators Naoki Urasawa, creator of Monster, Pluto, 20th Century Boys, and others, and Hirohiko Araki, creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, Urasawa created his original artwork, Now It's Your Turn, based on sports manga, commenting that the weekly serial comic was, quote, the perfect format for capturing the excitement of sporting events, concluding with the line, to be continued every weekly episode, has left readers on the edge of their seats, just like watching a real match, end quote. He concludes his explanation on the piece and its title by saying, quote, it is my attempt at representations that transcend sporting events, race, and gender. Everybody gets a turn. Now it's your turn, end quote. Araki's illustration, titled The Sky Above the Great Wave Off the Coast of Kanagawa, takes its compositional motif from the globally famous Katsushika Hokusai print. The artist explains that he, quote, imagine the gods of sports descending on Japan from a sky filled with clouds resembling turbulent waves, end quote. Would we expect anything less from the creator of JoJo? The poster also hides a number of references to his acclaimed JoJo's manga, with accessories decorating the pictured athlete's hair, clothes, and prosthetic legs, resembling the stands of characters from the series. So, there you go. Let's see here. The push against pirated manga, The push against pirated manga and anyone who could possibly be associated with it has another edition this week. Japanese publishing company Takashobo, along with an unnamed male manga creator, have filed a lawsuit with the Tokyo District Court against web security company Cloudflare. The lawsuit alleges that Cloudflare provided its services to websites despite knowing that they contained illegally pirated manga, and is therefore complicit in copyright infringement. Takashobo and the manga creator both seek damages from the company, and Takashobo is also seeking the removal of all its manga data that is temporarily stored on Cloudflare's servers. This might not be as much of a news story as it is a question on what can actually make you complicit in a crime, but regardless, it's an interesting development in the continuing piracy saga. I mean, always something more going on there. Meanwhile, it was announced this week that Yostar, the creator of the Azure Lane smartphone game, is founding its own animation studio. Yostar CEO Hengda Lee will also serve as representative director of Yostar Pictures. Board members include Albacro LLC's Ryosuke Inagaki, who was production manager for Kiznaiver, and animation producer for When Supernatural Battles Become Commonplace, and animation supervisor Kengo Saito, chief animation director for SSS Gridman or 4S Gridman or however you're supposed to pronounce that. IP planning and production company Arch Inc. invested in Yostar Pictures and will also support the company through product and strategy planning and execution. Arch, which began in 2017, aims to, quote, become is a new arch for companies and creators in and outside Japan and be a bridge to connect them and their stories and characters to consumers around the world, end quote. Just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? All right. Tis the season for year-end awards, and this week brings announcements for a couple revolving around our favorite entertainment medium as well. Excuse me. Voting has officially begun for Crunchyroll's 2019 Anime Awards. Now in its fourth year, the awards aim to, quote, commemorate the best, end quote, of the year's anime offerings in a number of different categories, with the winners chosen by a combination of global fan votes and a committee of judges. The judges, which are meant to, quote, represent a cross-section of anime knowledge spanning a wide range of history and expertise, end quote, also put together the lists of nominees, which is kind of an interesting system. This year's top nominees across categories are, can you guess, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, along with Carol and Tuesday and Vinland Saga, each with 9 nominations overall. The Promised Neverland, Sarazanmai, and Mob Psycho 102 are also close behind. Besides main categories like Anime of the Year and Best of various genres, fans can also vote for Best Girl and Boy, which I always think is annoying, Best Performance by a Voice Actor, English and Japanese, and more. Voting runs through the 17th of January, so basically a week from now, and the awards will be presented at a live show on February 15th. To vote and see all the nominees, check them out on Crunchyroll. Imagine that. There we go. Monthly anime magazine Animedia also holds a yearly fan-voted award contest, this one revolving specifically around the year's favorite characters. Winning characters are selected based on specific characteristics. For example, Demon Slayer's protagonist, Tanjiro Kamado, won the awards for Bright and Courageous, along with being named the overall MVP. In fact, between 7 different characters, Demon Slayer took home 11 different categories, including, of course, Cute for everyone's favorite demon little sister. Aww. Tanjiro's voice actor Natsuki Hanai commented on the wins, by the way, saying that the record-breaking number of wins indicates just how many charismatic characters Demon Slayer has, which, fair. Other characters to receive awards this year were, Detective Conan's Conan Edogawa, winning for Clever, and Lucky Kiseki from the Idol series Aikatsu on Parade, who won for Newcomer. This week also brings several more exciting announcements in the world of manga and anime-related magazines. The perils of speaking at an anime convention. First up, Shueisha's weekly Young Jump magazine is celebrating its 40th anniversary with the launch of a manga competition. The magazine is establishing the contest alongside fellow manga publications Grand Jump and Ultra Jump. The total prize money, 100 million yen, 40 manga prize, which also rolls right off the tongue, is open to submissions from pros and amateurs alike, and will distribute prizes to winners across 40 different manga genres. Who knew there were so many different genres of manga? Well, Weekly Young Jump did, apparently. Up to 2.5 million yen will be given away in prizes for each category, with the grand prize winner in each category receiving 1 million yen, which is about US $9,000. The winning titles will also be serialized on the web manga site Tonari no Young Jump, or My Neighbor Young Jump, and in the app Yanjan. Submissions are open from now through May 31st, so to any aspiring manga artists out there, go check it out. Another mainstay magazine is celebrating a major milestone this week as well. Animage, the oldest ongoing anime magazine in Japan, has just published its 500th issue. The first issue of the magazine was published in May of 1978 and featured Space Battleship Yamato on the cover, as seen in the picture here. According to the Japan Magazine Publisher Association, its current circulation as of July-September 2019 is 33,367 copies. The newly published February 2020 issue features a special look back on the 41-year history of the magazine and the anime series that have featured on its covers over the years. Congratulations to Animage, and here's to another 500 issues. But we're not quite done yet. From a long-running classic magazine to a brand new one, this week saw the publication of the first issue of Gundam Forward, a new magazine focusing on, you guessed it, all things Gundam related. The new magazine is published by Hobby Japan and promises to cover all things related to the franchise, including anime, games, and of course, model building. This first issue features a special look at the upcoming Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway's Flash films, along with an in-depth Gunpla customization guide. That's pretty cool, tweaking Gunpla. And a feature on Gundam-related mobile games. The magazine is on sale from Hobby Japan for a mere 900 yen. So Gundam fans, go find yourselves a shopping service and read away. That's all the news for this week. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Yeah, a lot of new anime studios. Very interesting. Doing the news at a panel. That's a really neat idea. I have not done that, but that's a really interesting concept. Hey, Spin. Good to see you. Yeah, Yamato was a big deal in my History of Anime panel. I talk about how Yamato was a pretty landmark anime in the history of anime for sort of creating that otaku demographic. Also, I learned this recently. I don't know if I talked about it on here. When Gundam came out, famously, it did not do particularly well when it aired. There was a kind of a hardcore fandom, but the Nielsen ratings were very low initially and just kind of crept up episode by episode. And I think when it was coming out, it was about halfway or 2/3 of the way through coming out, there was a record label that was that never did very well, and they were looking at kind of to expand somewhat, and they were like, let's do anime. Let's just try doing anime stuff. So they released, so they looked around and they heard about this Gundam thing. Like, fine, and the music is kind of interesting. So they released an LP of Gundam soundtrack, and they put kind of the classic Gundam image on the front of like the Gundam itself, with like just a generic space background, and put that giant red, yellow, blue logo on it. And it didn't sell very well. And when they went and they started interviewing folks coming out of record stores with this and saying, so why did you buy this and what's going on? They said, actually, I'm kind of embarrassed because this looks like it was made for 10-year-olds. and I'm like 17 because I'm into this Gundam thing, and so this kind of looks really kiddie. And but the reason they went and asked about this is because it was selling quite well. So they were selling like several thousand copies of this, as I recall. And then let me see if I can find information about this, because this was actually really interesting. I know there was some information. Oops. And so they were like, okay, this is clearly a success on some level, but there's something more going on. And so they went back and they found some classic art that was just like Amuro, in that Yoshikazu Yasuhiko style, and put it on there and used that for the cover, and discovered and put out a second soundtrack, and it sold like tens of thousands of copies. And they said this is at a time when like selling 5,000 copies of something was considered a huge success, and this was selling like way more than anything else we had, and it was just absolutely stunning. It was just a massive, massive success. Yeah, the movie covers definitely remedied that issue, and that was just how that was how you marketed anime back then, and that was what anime covers looked like. Even on DVDs and such, although they didn't have DVDs back then, but on like VHS covers and such, when those became a thing. And so when they're like, oh, let's do something more serious for Gundam. Oh, that's what people actually want. Gundam is a serious show. Imagine that. Hey, Rockman, good to see you. I may have watched the Gundam documentary on YouTube, and that may be where I'm pulling that information from. I'm not sure. Sounds right. Sounds right. Like an hour-long documentary about the making of original Mobile Suit Gundam. Very interesting. So that was that. I've heard good things about the remake of Yamato, and now that I know the Yamato is relatively short, I may go back and finish out that series. Because boy, that show is goofy a lot of the time. A product of its time, so to speak, which is kind of the reality. What I consider a comfort anime. My favorite comfort anime, I will put in the chat right now. I think I've talked about before. This is my favorite comfy anime. Do I think Gundam would do well with the Robotech treatment? I think it would, actually. Well, actually, I think it would, but you'd have to be careful about it because, for example, like so the obvious thing to do when you think about it, or when you initially think about it, would be you do original Gundam, Zeta, and Double Zeta. But the animation quality is such a drastic change into Zeta Gundam that I just don't think they would combine very well. And then like Zeta, Double Zeta, and Victory don't really fit together too well. Although I suppose you could do that. That might work. But I might combine OVAs. I might do like 0080, 0083, and 8th MS Team or something. I don't know. I don't know. But I think you could do that. You could package them all together and have them be different versions. Because that basically is what it is. Robotech was multiple generations, and characters from the one showing up in the next one. That's, Zeta and Double Zeta certainly is exactly that. But it is a little hard. Zeta and Wing might work together. They certainly could. The Macross movie soundtrack. Yeah, one of the great ones. Laid Back Camp, definitely. Laid Back Camp is a great comfort anime. Totally. Okay, let me see. Laid Back Camp, Eurocamp, same thing. It's one thing that I wish the American anime industry would kind of standardize is whether we go with the English titles or the Japanese titles. Because, like, I'm not Japanese. I can't remember these long Japanese titles. Especially, like, these really long, sentence titles. Like, I'm not going to remember the Japanese version of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. As just what I'm going to call it, Reincarnated as a Slime. But half of us use one and half of it use another, which is unfortunate. Gundam fandom is absolutely a sub-fandom of the larger anime fandom. Very small sub-fandom, indeed. It's one of the problems Gundam has had for a long time is that it's always been this small niche in America, and they've always wanted it to kind of break out. And it's getting there. I mean, it's getting more popular than it ever was. Certainly, my Gundam panels are bigger now than they ever were, but just hasn't quite broken out. Hey, Seth, good to see you. Yeah, I mean, Shonen. I feel like most anime fans watch Shonen. I feel like almost all anime fans watch Shonen, which is kind of weird. That thing, which is definitely a subgenre amongst like adult otaku in Japan, is just kind of standard amongst anime fans over here. Not weird in the sense that nobody should like Shonen. Just it's an interesting contrast that Shonen is mainly aimed. It's pretty rare for a Japanese otaku to be keeping up with Fairy Tail and Dragon Ball Super in Japan. Maybe Dragon Ball Super because nostalgia. But they're watching Love Live. They're not watching the big ongoing Shonen series. They're not watching Boruto. But over here, kind of everyone assumes that you're watching Shonen titles. Kaleido Star, nice choice. Nice choice. Would Macross do well if they redo the anime? Yes, but that's never going to happen because Macross is a sacred cow. That would be like, remaking, I don't know. There's very little American equivalence because we don't have a problem remaking things. We don't consider things sacred the way other cultures do. But it would just, I think it would be a sacred cow. Although they did Yamato. I mean, if they can remake Yamato, they can remake Macross. It's a fair point. So yeah, the thing is, I don't think Macross necessarily needs a refresh. The animation is just so smooth that I think it works today. It works today better than most anime of the time. So I think that's the hard thing is that folks will look back at that and say, how do we update this? The budget was already high back in the day. Certainly we can make it look, glitzier, flashier, more shiny. We can make it look modern, but it's going to be really hard to outdo just that, those Etano circuses and all those things from the original Macross. I think that would be the challenge. Yamato's easier because Yamato, the animation budget in that was so low, relatively speaking. The art, definitely benefited from a budget upgrade. But Macross is a little trickier in that way, but they could certainly do it. Yeah, no, totally. I totally agree, Seth. The Gundam is kind of nerdy even for nerds. Because it's a science fiction series, but there's giant robots, but it's a kind of a war story. It's a bunch of stuff going on. Who knows? That's a good point, Akko. Hit up those pachinko machines for updated Macross, right? Apparently, there are EVA pachinko machines that tell you that provide backstory, where those scenes actually tell you more about what's going on in Evangelion than you get in the TV series or the movies. So you will get plot out of a pachinko machine. Yep, that's a thing. What is your question, Spin? Actually, I need to take a quick bio break, so give me about 2 minutes, and I'll be right back to answer that question. Okay, sorry about that. Actually, 15 seconds. Oops, wait. One of the downsides of doing a lot of panels is that your throat gets dry. You tend to lose your voice after a while. But if you do it a lot, you then learn to drink a lot, like water and tea, not booze. Um, and that resolves it. I spoke for 3 hours today, and you can tell my voice is still okay. But that means you're running to the bathroom more often than you normally would. Let's see here. So, what was Spin's question? How do you find new media like music without dedicating hours and hours of time? I want to find as much stuff that appeals to me as possible, but it is so hard. For example, I have a couple of musicians I'm obsessed with, but it is so hard to expand beyond that because for me personally, okay, that's a really interesting question. I have a couple of answers to that. We're going to speak specifically to music first. I'm weird in that way, in that I actually don't listen to much new music. I've collected a large enough collection, and it's not massive, but I don't really feel a need to listen to new music. I'm very happy with the music I have, and the music I've already collected, and just listening to that. I don't feel like I need to, um, be constantly listening to something new. And I think and I say that not to kind of shut down that conversation, but to say I also think there is a point at which one can say, okay, I'm content, right? At least for now. In terms of other media, I tend to be very experimental, where I'll just click through and listen to random stuff. Now, obviously, I don't just go to a music service and say, give me a random song out of every song ever made. But I'll take a genre that I generally like, and I'll just try some new artists, and I'll do that for an hour, and I'll just try different music. So when I got into synthwave a couple years ago, I just essentially started Googling synthwave, and actually I think I went on YouTube and started looking up and just put synthwave in the search bar and started looking for artists, and then just spent like an hour listening to different artists and found a few that I liked. And then kind of went from there. Said, okay, let me listen to their music, and then it's pretty easy once you get that to bounce to another artist. Let's see here. It feels like I just get burned out with other musicians can't meet my standard. I totally appreciate that. The and I think that also ties into the fact that I will drop an artist very quickly, or an anime series or a movie or whatever. Actually, here at the hotel, I turned on TV and flicked through the channels for a little while, and got a chance to watch some popular shows, like live action shows that I'd heard about and just never gotten a chance to experience. Parks and Rec, and The American Office, and shows like that, where I've certainly seen clips and such, but I never had a chance to really sit down and watch a good chunk of an episode, and was like, oh, this is why I don't watch these shows. Nothing against them, just not my style of comedy. Um, and obviously, you might watch some chunk of a show that's not representative of that show, but we do not live in a world where you have to spend a lot of time exposing yourself to lots of media. There's lots of other things to find. So my favorite synthwave YouTube channel Let me see if I have it up here. The Prime Thanatos is the YouTube channel. Again, that's the Prime Thanatos. Has a synthwave playlist that I like a lot, and I listen to that. Actually, a lot of the time when I'm working on a workshop project, I like to turn on that, and it's usually kind of hard charging music, or at least kind of upbeat music, and that works pretty well for me when I'm trying to be creative. Listen to Hearts of Space. I have not. Familiar. I mean, I've heard of it, but oh, nice. Luchonsky, Prime Thanatos, another Prime Thanatos fan. I did learn very quickly to turn off chat on pretty much any live music channel on YouTube. There tends to be people just kind of screaming at each other, or just obviously very high, and trying to hold deep philosophical conversations with people about the bugs climbing on the walls. Yeah, it's just there's some good stuff there occasionally, but the signal to noise ratio can be pretty bad on some of those, unfortunately. Oh, that's cool, Spinduin. I did not know that. That's cool. But yeah, there's in terms of finding new media. Also, for me, I will tend to. I'm trying to think. I don't really look at recommendations much. I think recommendations are really useful for and I'm talking like automated recommendations. I think those are good for like books. Like if you find a good book, or if you find a book that you really like, going on Amazon and looking at the people who bought this have also bought, or the we recommend this lists. You have to do a little bit of parsing, but that can be a really useful way of finding new things like that. Depends a lot. I mean, manga often is like you read the first volume of this. You might like the second volume of this. It's like, well, thank you. That was a hard decision. But that can be helpful for that stuff. I don't know how good that is for musicians because again, my musical tastes are so eclectic. I like classical. I like jazz. I like a lot of instrumental type music, and a lot of that doesn't really correlate well to recommendation algorithms. Yeah, you can just see what other artists recommend. That totally works. I started getting into opera a couple years ago. I wouldn't say get into opera. That's perhaps overstating it, but starting to appreciate opera. Opera has once you kind of grasp what opera is trying to get, that it's a very different musical form than classical or jazz or anything else. I can listen to opera now. I can appreciate it. I have a couple of opera recordings that I've not finished yet because that's a commitment. But one of these days. Classical Spanish guitar, nice. Yeah, Spanish guitar is a good example of something that I enjoy in certain ways, certain styles of it. But there's a style of Spanish guitar that just kind of somebody kind of noodling on a guitar over and over, and it's kind of the same chords just repeated over and over, with some slight variations that kind of drive me up a wall after a while. But there are other kinds where I'm like, oh, this is gorgeous. So, same thing with jazz for me. Sometimes jazz can just be sort of random notes, where it's like, come back when you find a melody, right? Whereas I prefer more melodic jazz. But you gotta, you gotta figure that out. Took Debussy to get you into classical music. I can see that. Debussy is, Debussy tends to be beautiful. Music that is just to the ear, very smooth and I don't know, kind of like whiskey. No, whiskey's sharp. Debussy is like a milkshake, and so it's easy to get into Debussy, I think. Not that it's not complicated or fascinating, but yeah. Turkish rock music from the 60s and 70s. That's really cool. That's really cool. Classics from American jazz. Yeah, yeah. That's a great question, Matt. When Italians are listening to opera, how much are they cringing at that at all that Italian? Must be as much as we cringe at Japanese mispronunciations of English words. Where it's like that's not how that sounds, not close to how that sounds. Yeah, as far as I know, Hikaru Utada is still pretty big in Japan. Pretty major pop star. The Baroque period, yeah. And Baroque music has been shown by studies to help in learning. It helps the brain to absorb new ideas better than other music, and kind of keep the brain open and keep the mind open to new possibilities. So if you want to study for something, if you want to learn something, put on some Baroque music. Give it a try. Might not work for you. I That's another interesting thing I think about just different people. So for example, I cannot have music on when I'm trying to concentrate. I just get distracted and I cannot concentrate as well. I cannot work as hard when music is playing. I can have it playing when if I'm cooking or putzing around the house, cleaning, whatever. I can have music on. But if I'm trying to really get something done, music will slow me down. And I know a lot of other people are the exact opposite of that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Exactly. Wah, wah. All right. I think that is going to have to do it for now, but we're going to try doing do some more Nadia tonight on SciTube. So let me find, do I have, I don't know if one second. I have not pulled up, good. Okay, so one second. We are going to go and watch some Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water now. Let me paste the URL in the chat. If my chat was an anime, you can pronounce it any way you like. Any way you would like. So I've just posted in the chat the URL to SciTube, where we're going to watch some Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water. And I need to go in there and reset that. So one moment while I do that, and then we will get things going here, and we will watch some anime. Good, I'm logged in. So let's go and watch some Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water. Hope to see you all over there. And now hold on. And now I am going to go offline. So thank you all very much. Great time as always. See you next time. Take care all. See you next week.